Making a music video is one of the best places to sharpen your filmmaking skills, and today I'm going to show you how I made one in Blender 3D, a free open source program. If you want to watch the full music video, it's up on my channel. It's also up on the band's channel, Mercury. I highly recommend you go check them out, especially if you're into heavy metal. Today I'll take you through the process of how this music video was made. Phase 1, ideas and preparation. So I started out by brainstorming the idea itself with Remy Akira, the lead singer in the band. After going through the lyrics, the music, just the whole song, we knew it was going to be something grungy and dark. I also really liked the idea of making something that looked like it was a real concert, or it was like footage from a live performance or event. So we eventually came to the idea of there being this huge live performance and this giant crowd that gets more and more rowdy, and the chaos just builds throughout the entire video, until eventually the crowd actually just ends up killing itself by fighting each other and stuff like that. It sounded pretty basic to start off with, but it wasn't, and it got a lot more complicated as time went on as well. I always seem to underestimate what one person can do with visual effects, but anyway, here we go. Now, since I'm literally one person, and this is a 5.5 minute long song, I was gonna need to find ways to cut corners to make it just possible, make it so it wouldn't take years to animate, to make, to edit, to do everything. So myself and Remy decided that there would be a couple things that we would do to make shooting and post-production a little bit easier. So the first thing was I would animate the whole thing in black and white, making color correcting and balancing just a whole lot easier, basically cutting that off the post-production process. The second thing I'd be doing would be dirtying up the filter a lot. So basically making it look like it's VHS footage, kind of found footage, but not really, more like a live televised event that has a bit of static and a bit of damage to it. And also I would make the shots quite harsh, where you have a lot of blown out parts. That way it's super easy to sort of match the footage up to the CGI. Blow out parts of your footage so it matches the blown out parts of the CGI. It's sort of cheating, but it gets the job done. It just looks like it was filmed by someone who doesn't know how to change the ISO on a camera. I've seen other artists use these techniques a lot, especially when the team that is working on the project isn't big or is literally just one person. For example, Kane Pixels with his backroom videos, you can see a lot of artifacts and VHS damage on the footage, and it does a really good job at hiding all the little imperfections you normally see in animation, the stuff that gives it away. I mean, if you look at the animation, it's actually pretty simple, but it's the sound design, the motion, the camera shake that all sell the realness of the video. Now, there was a lot of complicated shots in this music video, so I needed to storyboard it. And the way I like to storyboard is to make a really simple animatic of the whole thing. That way I can sort of move stuff around and take it, I don't know, it's the way I like to storyboard. So I basically just set up the scene roughly how I knew it was gonna be. I used Mixamo characters, these little doll looking things, and just animated them. And I set up the camera for its individual shots during the track. I had the music playing in the background. And by the end, I had something that looked like this, which honestly could have been a music video in itself. It looked like it was out of FNAF, but it got the job done, so I moved on. All right, phase 2, filming. So this part was probably the hardest, but the most rewarding, I would say. We needed a location that was large enough for the whole band to play, and then also for us to set up equipment outside of them and move the camera outside of them. So we needed quite a large space. Another factor was we needed to blast heavy metal music for 8 hours straight, and I'm not sure many neighbors would be happy about that. This part actually had me quite worried, because all the local studios that have green screen stages or anything like that were so expensive, and no one's home really had a space that was big enough to shoot in. But luckily, one of the band members had a family farm, and on that farm they happened to have this newly built, very big shed. And better yet, it was in the middle of nowhere, so we wouldn't get any noise complaints, and we could control all the lighting because it was an enclosed building. Now, using the animatic that I created, I basically screenshotted all the different shots and made a shot list that I could refer to whilst filming. And once we had gathered everyone's availability and picked a couple days to go up, we went up to the farm. Everyone really pulled their weight here, which was so helpful. And it's one of the things I love about filmmaking is when you have a team, everyone has different skill sets, and you're coming together to make this big, beautiful thing. Special shout out to Jake, who actually brought the lights for the music video. And in retrospect, without these lights, this music video would have looked pretty shit. So yeah, thank you Jake for saving the lighting in the music video. So yeah, we spent 2 whole days filming in that garage. It was really hot because the metal garage had no ventilation and it was an Australian summer, but it was also really fun. And you know, whilst we're there, we went on a couple nature walks, drove around on the buggy, and you know, just had a good time. It was fun.
I'll go slow anyway.
like I'm in a spaceship right now.
I want to go front on. Yeah, I want to go front on.
Apocalyptic wasteland at the end.
Oh, he dropped the leaf.
I also made sure to get 3D scans of all the band members that I could use later in the video, and we filmed a time lapse of us shooting some of it. And I thought it looked really funny when I was scanning them because, yeah, well, I mean, look for yourself. Phase 3, post-production. Alrighty, this was the part where I underestimated how much work there would be, as I always do with anything to do with visual effects. I always say 1 month and it's 2 months, 5 months and it's a year. That's the way it goes. So I had hours and hours of footage, and now it was up to me to turn it into a full-blown concert. If you couldn't already tell, I did not have nearly enough green screen to cover the whole band. Even if I did though, it would have been a nightmare trying to evenly light it with the equipment we had. So I always felt like that route wasn't a possibility, maybe for some smaller shots, like these guitar head shots right here. But other than that, we were gonna have to go through rotoscoping. To be honest, I decided I was gonna do that before the shoot. And you might be thinking now, Zen, that's crazy, rotoscoping 80+ shots by yourself would take years. And you know what? 4 years ago, you would have been correct. But the tools like Magic Mask and DaVinci Resolve and these sort of AI-assisted rotoscoping tools have gotten to a point where you can actually use them on a large scale. And yes, there are still problems, there are still a lot of visual artifacts, especially when you have really complicated scenes, but you can for the most part remove those artifacts manually or create multiple layers of magic masks and overlay them to make the scene a bit simpler. And for it being 100 times faster, the payoff is worth it in my opinion. And plus the VHS filters and film grain I mentioned before would help hide those artifacts. So it was a sort of win-win. Now for the actual CGI scene, the location that they would be in, I used photo scans to build up the environment. I modeled this big wall of lights, and I created the crowd using geometry nodes and Mixamo models. Yes, it made my computer want to melt. But once I had it set up, I just hit it and didn't worry about it until I had to render it. Now, there are tools out there for crowd generation, and there's some really good ones, but I wanted a bit more control over what my crowd was doing, so I decided to build it up from scratch. Once I had the scene all set up, it was time to start filming, setting up the shots, animating, rendering. And for all that, here was my loosely defined shot production pipeline. Roto the shot, motion tracking, balance, render, dirty up. So first things first, you roto the shot, you cut everything out that you need and chuck the rest out. Next thing you do is you motion track. Now this was only for shots that had movement. Half the shots were probably static. Then I had to go ahead and balance the footage to make sure it matched the background. So basically I would go into the footage and change the curves and the contrast, make sure that the black levels match the background. Then I would also use the 3D scans of the band, make them invisible, and just use them as shadow casters in the scene to make sure that people actually had shadows. And when I rendered it, I added a couple things, basically just lens distortion and glare to add to the realism of the scene. And then finally, I bring the shot back into DaVinci where I add all the filters, analog damage, film grain, all that kind of stuff. And it really just melts it all together, I would say. Now, on some level, it actually really hurt to dirty up some of these shots because some of them actually looked really good without the filter. But then there were some that looked really shit as well and needed the filter to actually sell the shot. But in the end, I decided that having the grainy, staticky filter of everything outweighed the benefits of not having it. But yeah, no, it still hurt. I mean, look at this shot, and now look at it. It just feels like I ruined it. But then again, look at this shot, and look how much I need to cover all those mistakes up as well, so. And yeah, so basically I just repeat this process approximately 80 times over the course of 2 months, and then I pretty much have a finished music video. Now, I could stop there, but currently all the shots are entirely of the band, and there is a whole story happening outside of the band in this music video, the crowd, and its descent into madness. And in its current state, it didn't capture that. So, some crowd shots needed to be added. I started messing around with crowd placement, you know, changing the geonodes, creating gaps in the crowd where I could then manually place models to actually fight each other. And this is also where the 3D scans of the band came in real handy because it means I could just have them up on the band doing their little dance, Yep, that's literally the animation I used. Not needing footage from every single angle to put them up there. Plus, they wouldn't be the focus in these shots, so you wouldn't focus on them, you focus on the people fighting in the crowd. And to add to the realism in the crowd, I also added crazy camera shake, cracked lenses, all the kind of dirty, imperfect stuff. So I think I made about 6 extra shots of the crowd, and to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I ended up placing them over the weaker shots in the short film, therefore enhancing the whole video. I mean, yeah, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, it was, yeah, good. This really made the environment come alive. Before it was just like a showreel of a band, now it's like a story with these 2 parallel things increasing over time and then crazy, and then everyone dies. And lastly, I just need to add some opening and closing credits. I felt like the opening was a little bit boring as it stood, so I decided to make this extra crowd shot sort of what it would look like after the event, and put that at the start to sort of make you wonder what happened and, I don't know, suspense or foreshadowing, something like that. And that was that. The music video was completed. I really like to think that bigger projects are becoming more and more accessible to smaller artists as time goes on. And it's just because of the variety of tools that are available for free out there today. I mean, you can learn Blender on YouTube for free. Blender's free, DaVinci has a free version. You can literally do anything. And I don't know, that's like a really inspiring thought and a direction we should be heading. It allows more people to tell their stories. This is probably the best time to be making stuff creatively. Anyway, if you haven't already, I definitely recommend you go check out Hard Mercury. I'll leave their link down in the description below. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you could subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. If there's anything specific in this video that you think I skimmed over too quickly, or you want a more in-depth tutorial on how to do, just leave a comment down below. I mean, I've got 223 subscribers, so I will definitely respond to it. This is an opportunity for you to speak directly to me to learn something if you want to. You don't have to, it's fine. But anyways, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time.